Hello everybody, welcome back at the Faculty of Architecture. I'm whispering a bit today because we are here in the Urbanism and Landscape Design Studio, where our students are just finishing their third quarter design assignments. An appropriate setting because this week was the week in which we were going to look at landscape architecture. The topic for this week was a way to dissect the landscape into three layers: an architectural layer, a cultural layer, and a natural layer. Let's look at some of the examples that you have sent us. So let's have a look at the way in which you separated the cultural layer, the urban layer, and the natural layer in your respective home environments. We have here a contribution by Sergio Soto Cisneros. Tijuana, Baja California in Mexico. We see a mountainous landscape here, and very clear, in between two hills, two ridges, there is a stream going down, and this is the place where Sergio imagines his rowing course to be. Parking lot here along a road, and the clubhouse in between the parking lot and the rowing course. A very basic layout, which promises a very dramatic rowing course right in between two hills, two slopes of a hill. Sergio dissects the landscape into natural layer, cultural layer, and urban layer. Now this is one layer that I would like to draw your attention to, because apparently for some of the participants it wasn't exactly clear what was meant by the cultural layer. In this case, Sergio thought that the cultural layer are the roads, is the infrastructure that organizes the landscape. In Inge Bobbing's video, Inge portrayed it as somewhat different. She said the cultural layer is, say, a pre-urban layer where man has organized the landscape basically into a division into arable plots, and not so much the infrastructure. This usually leads to very recognizable patterns in the landscape, which later on may or may not have been urbanized. In the next contribution, we see a different approach to this cultural layer. It's this one by Marco Di Salvo, who has drawn an analysis of his hometown Sulmona in Italy. And here we see again a division in the landscape in three layers: natural layer, an urban layer, and a cultural layer. Here we see this cultural layer that I was just talking about. It's not so much the infrastructure in the landscape, which is considered as part of the urbanized landscape, but the agricultural landscape here forms a division in plots, and note here the text. There is a tendency of this allotment pattern to follow the mountain shape with the influence of streets and irrigation channels. This is the design by Marco, and his suggestion is to position the rowing course not so much in relation to the natural stream, but since it's a very rational and artificial form, to give it a place in the cultural layer, following the allotment lines, linking to the Italian tradition of making formal villas and gardens in a flat landscape. Now I would like to show you this example by Vanessa Catalano, who has made an analysis and a design for the city of Caracas. Again, this is a different situation than we saw in the two previous examples where we had a hilly landscape. This is a coastal plain, which is very flat and obviously very green, and therefore the natural elements comprise most of what is here in the situation. Here in the second drawing we see the urban elements, which are older colonial type settlements and touristic settlements that were developed there in the 70s, embedded in this very green coastal plain. This is also a very interesting map. The cultural elements are canals which have been dug into the landscape here, which appear to have a very natural form, but were actually developed for the touristic industry to allow people to have a boat along together with their holiday house. In the design proposal, we see the rowing course neatly aligned with the main canal, which is very straightforward and orthogonal indeed. We see the rowing course right next to the canal, the clubhouse and the parking lot. Another example from South America is this one by Flavia Bottecchia, who has made an analysis and a design proposal for her hometown Serra in Brazil. Most of all, I would like to draw your attention to the beautiful drawings that she has made analyzing the landscape. What we see here is a mountain here surrounded by green areas, again surrounded by an urbanized zone, a very recognizable pattern, of course. But look at the drawings that she has made to explain this situation. Please have a look at these exquisite analysis drawings. We see the perimeter of the hill in the natural layer with part of the river. We see here the cultural layer, which she interprets as a number of industrial zones and a road with some allotment patterns. That's very good. And an urban layer with the rest of the infrastructure, and in gray the built-up areas. Here we see Flavia's design proposal. She proposes to position the rowing course right in between the mountain and the urbanized area. And even though the rowing course follows the very orthogonal layout of the urbanized zone, it is placed in this natural environment, which promises to be a very nice contrast, I guess. It must be a beautiful place to row right next to this mountain at some distance of the city. To finish off this week's feedback video, I would like to show you this one in a very contrasting landscape. The southeast of Nooddorp here in the Netherlands, a proposal by Johanne van der Spek. And what I like about this proposal is that she takes up the cultural layer that is so predominant here in the Netherlands, the polder structure with their orthogonal layout of canals. We see here in this aerial photograph the edge of the city of Nooddorp, which has in fact replaced the previous landscape, the previous cultural landscape of canals and meadows, which is still visible here as we move out of the village. This is the location that Johanne has chosen for her design, and again we see here an analysis in a natural, a cultural and an urban layer, where Johanne says, well, the natural layer in the Dutch case is pretty much absent, or if you want, it is actually the flat landscape. It is a single feature. Cultural layer, we see here the allotment pattern of the canals, and the urban layer, which is, say, the eating up of this cultural layer by progressing urbanization. What I like about the design proposal of Johanne is that it takes one of these canals and just follows it. She says, if we have to include a rowing course here, why not take one of these canals and make it 10 times as wide, increasing the water buffering capacity of the landscape and dramatizing, in a way, the rigidity of the polder. Thank you, Johanne, for your contribution. Thank you, everybody else who has sent in their work. We are very, very happy that Armuk is alive and that you are finding the time to make drawings, make analysis of your hometown and share them with everybody else. And what I like in Armuk are two things in particular. First of all, that there are people from all over the world contributing drawings and sharing their knowledge, introducing each other to your home situations, and second, that you are taking the time to actually give feedback to each other in the forum or on the sketch drive. Thank you very much for doing that. Keep up the good work, and we will see you next week with a new version of the feedback videos. Thank you very much.